Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, this is Joe and Jay Outspoken. As the recording of this, it's Tuesday, June 13th. I'm Jay, and today we're going to be covering a great topic as always. So, Joe, what's the title of this week's episode?
So this week's episode is called Not the Children. We're going to be talking about transgender ideology, how it's impacting our young children. So have a seat, grab some water and some popcorn, get ready for some controversy.
Wow. Don't touch the kids. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Joe and Jay Outspoken podcast. Hey, we are going over a subject today, not the children. This may be a little weird for the whole algorithm and some of the folks watching, but to preface, I mean, and Joe's going to agree with this, we do have folks in the LGBT community that are dear friends of ours and everything.
Absolutely.
So we want to preface this whole thing with knowing that this is definitely not an episode that we're against any of them. We're just going over some of the concerns that folks in the general community have, and yeah. So Joe, what's some of the stuff we're going to cover today?
So we're going to talk a little about the ideologies that the transgender community is putting out there for our children, and as you know, growing up in a small community like we did, we knew a lot of people. And again, just to piggyback what you said, ladies and gentlemen, this is not about hating any particular group. And I know it sounds corny when you say, "Oh, we got gay friends," right? Because it kind of goes with the, "Oh, I got black friends," or "I know a Mexican," things like that. But we truly
Joe's got
do.
a white friend.
I do got a white friend, but in true belief of ourselves and who we are, we do not hate any particular group or any particular person or
That's
anything
correct.
for that matter. The whole purpose of our podcast is to share our views and our beliefs and in things that we think are impacting today's great nation of ours. And it could be in favor or against. It could be right wing or left wing. It doesn't matter. So we just want to be very clear that this is not about having anyone that listens to this podcast to feel a particular way about any group, but it's more about what we should do to protect our children or what we feel is crossing the line when it comes to our children.
That's right. We're not hating on anybody.
So now that so now that we've said that, so here's some of the things that really have concerned me. Like I said, me and Jay come from a very small community, very small town where, when we ever dealt with any transgender person, it was usually in a show at a bar, right, Jay?
Right. Yep.
And that's usually where our introduction was back in our day when we were younger. It was that, and so it's very important so people understand that what we thought of transgender back then has completely changed today. And I
Quite a
think
bit.
quite a bit. And I think Jay agrees when we say that this movement has become a little on the dangerous side. Okay, and why do I say that? So let me just give you a couple of titles of some books. All right, and you let me know what you think, Jay. The hips on the drag queen go swish swish swish. Bye bye binary. The gay BCs. The pronoun book. 'Twas the night before Pride. It's okay to be a unicorn. So what kind of books you think those are?
They sound like preschool books.
Well, they are transgender children's books. So look, man, I mean, here's the thing that to me, I that's scary, right? Because
Yeah.
you're looking at these very very young kids books, and already at that age, we're saying, hey, you identify as non-binary, or hey, you're gay, or we're telling these to our kids or small children, right?
Right.
Where at that time in my life, I was trying to figure out which toy I wanted to play with. Right? I'm like,
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I want to play with the Tonka truck, but my brother broke it, so I'm going to go bake some mud pies with my neighbor. Right? Could you have imagined, Jay, if my mom would have ran with that? It's like, oh, he likes baking pies.
Right.
He's going to be a girl. You know, I first of all, I would have been a very ugly girl. All right. And that's not cool, man. Okay. So, but these are the dangers that are happening today. I'm sure most of you guys have already seen all the controversy with Target, right? Kohl's, and all the things that are happening, right? With that devil worshiper that design clothing for children, right? And then
Right.
just how much that the transgender is just in your face, right? And I think that's the biggest problem that we have. I don't care how you identify. I don't care what part of the human anatomy goes in your mouth or doesn't. Um, it does nothing to me, right? Because I have
Thumbs,
my
all thumbs.
yeah, I have my personal views on my own thing. But when you have corporations
Thumbs.
shoving it
All.
in your but when you have corporations shoving it in your face, when you walk up, so just imagine this, Jay. My kids. Imagine me walking with my young daughter into a Target and we see all this stuff right in the front, right when you walk in, right in your face, like, eat this, buddy. How do I explain that? How do I go to my daughter and say, hey, well, look, there's people, and she's not gonna understand. She's
No.
7, 8 years old, right? Not now, but how is she gonna
Right.
understand that? Me trying to explain it. So if I'm having a hard time trying to explain that to my daughter, as far as an explanation as to what that all means, how could kids possibly know that they're transgender? You
Right.
know?
Well, and the fact is they don't, right? Because so when we were little kids, and any little children, and it depends obviously the time frame we're talking about. You go back to the 1800s or you go to current time, but you have little girls, let's say they want to be a Disney princess, right?
Hmm.
Little boys want to be Superman, let's say. And if you or I, when we were kids, we said, "Hey, we saw the Superman movie and we want to be Superman," and our moms and or dads told us, "Hey, well, you guys want to do that? You can totally identify however you want. Why don't you get on the roof and go ahead and try to jump off and fly? See how that works out for you."
Not very well. I tried that.
You tried that?
Yeah, and even now, I've not seen a Mexican Superman, and I am the reason why.
Yeah.
I almost died. So,
Yeah, the only thing you got out of that was two broken ankles, right? So,
oh man,
yeah,
no, I got. You know what I got from that was a whooping, jumping
a
off the
whooping,
damn roof,
yeah.
and I
Oof.
used my mom's
On
good
the
towel
roof.
to wrap around my neck to be Superman. So,
Yeah, so and that we're saying something that's kind of silly, and people would say, "Well, of course you can't jump off a roof." Well, yeah, of course you can because you can't fly, and unfortunately, a little boy, you're born as a biological male, and let's say you get through life and you don't have this indoctrination when you're younger, but you hit 25 years old and you decide, hey, you know what, I've never felt comfortable as a boy in my skin, and you want to transition to a female and you get your genitalia taken off. The fact is, you will never birth children regardless of implants and surgeries and all these other things for you. And I've seen some of these folks that have transitioned, and it seems like it's a lot more guys transitioning into women than vice versa. But I don't know the exact stats on all that, but um, you're never going to be fully what is biologically considered a female because you can never birth children, you can never lactate, you're not going to have the same and the fact that they have been telling young children, see, adults should be smart enough to know that and know, listen, I'm just transitioning because I want to look like that and I want to be in this community and everything, and I don't get it, but I get it. That's what you want to do. Go for it, knock yourself out, you're an adult, do your
yeah,
thing. But for us to tell little children, I just gave an analogy a second ago, kids, if they are encouraged enough, will jump off of a roof because they think they can fly because they thought they
absolutely.
saw Superman do it. So now you're going to tell little kids that, hey, you can be whatever you want. You can become a female, transitioning from a male, you'll be able to have babies and all this kind of. That is completely not accurate.
Well,
You know, and the fact that they say,
at that age, your perception of reality is totally off whack.
absolutely, we believe in the tooth fairy and Santa Claus. You
Right,
know, so I
right.
mean, those are. I
Wait,
still believe in Santa
there's no
Claus.
tooth fairy, bro.
Yeah, that was me putting quarters under your pillow, buddy.
I knew it.
What do kids get for teeth nowadays? I mean, it can't be a, is it a $2 bill? I don't know.
Oddities, but no,
You know,
you're absolutely right. Their minds are so tender, they're so young, and they're developing. See, the thing is about children, and this is what I did with my children. I kind of let them explore the world, right? I let them go find out. Hey, don't touch that; it's hot. And then they didn't realize that until they touched it, right? They kind of learn, right? But as a parent, you're always there, like, okay, look, I'm not going to let my kid get into danger like that, where
right,
he's going to third-degree burn and stuff like that. But you're there to guide them, right? You're kind of like those you when you go bowling to have those
yeah,
gutter rails up,
guardrails,
yeah.
yeah,
So you're kind of like that. You're that as a parent. You're guiding your children to the right path, right? And I think one of the first things that we teach our children is right respect, right? We teach them morals and beliefs and things like that. Um, but when the parents themselves are confused, that just leads to chaos with our children.
right,
Like I said, our children's minds are so fresh, so tender. That's the whole purpose. And when people say, and one of the things that drives me totally insane is when people say, like, well, they might have been born with a boy part, or they might have been born with a girl part, but that doesn't mean that's who they are. I'm like, did you study biology at all, like in high school? Like,
right.
like there's chemicals. We go down to the fact that there's chemicals in our body that our body makes that are specific to gender. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it
absolutely.
they're parts of our body, are bone structures that are specific to women and to men, right? To
Yeah,
gender. I mean, that's why do you think that when there's a crime scene and forensics comes out and you have and they do an autopsy and there's only bones that they're able to determine it's a male or a female. There's no male or female genitalia. No, there's only bones, and those
yeah,
bones are able to tell you that's male or that's female, right? Because we're specifically made
yeah,
to represent that gender. So
yeah,
don't sit there and tell me, oh, just because they're born doesn't mean no.
yeah.
If they're born with a dingaling, they're a boy. You know what I mean?
Well, in thousands of years, right, of uh, research and archaeology, we have yet to find a non-binary um, skeleton. We just haven't found one. So,
And we never will.
and we never
And let
will.
me tell you right now, someone I could anybody pick someone famous that is a transgender. Um, I think we know one. Bruce, right? Or I'm sorry, not Bruce. What is Kate?
Caitlin,
Caitlin. Sorry, Caitlin. I
Caitlin,
apologize.
yeah.
Um,
Well, he may be trying to go back to Bruce pretty soon anyway. So
well, either way, if he were to, heaven forbid, he were to die tomorrow, he gets buried years from now when he's just bones, and let's say they dig him up. They're not going to say, "Oh, that's Caitlin." No, they're going to say, "This is a male." Right? This is a male bone structure. This is
100%.
and you know what? You could shave those jaw lines, the nose. You could shave all that. They could tell though on the jaws if it's been shaved. I
Right.
mean, they're still going to
Well,
say this is a man,
right.
and not a woman.
Yeah,
So
the basic bone DNA will identify him as a being born as a male.
so
And
the
so,
ignorance behind that, man, that's what drives me
mhm.
insane is the ignorance, Jay.
Well, yeah, right. And the thing is, again, if you want to identify as an eggplant and stuff yourself in other people's pants,
Hmm.
go do do your whole thing. Just know that you are physically, specifically what you were born as. Your identifier, the thing you want to call yourself or you want other people to call you, and this is the one thing that kind of goes off the rails with me, is that, well, how dare you call me XYZ? Well, it's like, how do you expect people to know unless you wear a badge or a T-shirt every day that has exactly what you want to be called, right? I remember when I was younger and I was playing in rock bands and stuff like that, and I had long hair down to the middle of my back. We used to work in a store together, and I'll never forget. I had that's back when we wore vests at that store,
Oh yeah.
and it was retail, and I was walking down the aisle, and this lady was behind me, and I could hear her, and she was going, ma'am, excuse me, ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. And I turned around, and she was flustered. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Well, you did move your hips a certain way, and I
Oh
even
yeah,
I
that's what it
sometimes
was all
like,
about.
whoa, who's that? Yeah, thank you very much,
Oh,
Jay.
that's only my buddy Jay. So yeah, and I never found offense to that. Oh my gosh, how silly would be for me to have. In fact, I laughed about it, and I probably came and told you at one point or another. I'm like, hey man. So people aren't purposely going out into the world to offend you, to say, excuse me, ma'am, what, how dare you identify me as a ma'am? How do you know what I identify as? Well, we don't. We kind of assume something, and I'm sorry that we assumed the wrong thing of you. If you tell me what you want to be called from here on out, I'll oblige by it. But
Right.
don't get crazy on people. The first time that they've met you, they have no clue who you are. There's no way.
That's
So
but
now,
that's like names though, Jay. Like if let's say my name is Charles, and I'm like, hey, don't call me Charles. I go by Dick. How are you supposed to know that I go by that name? Right?
right.
You can't get offended by that.
That's
No,
an interesting choice of names for you to pick, Dick.
here we
So,
go. Here we go. Well, you know what?
uh, and I'm not calling you Charles either. So, yeah. So, the fact that this is being and I'm going to call it what it is, indoctrination in
It's what it
schools.
is.
And the thing is that you have teachers. Okay, some of the teachers, I think, are just, to be honest with you, kind of going along with the narrative that is being told in schools. I'm seeing it all the time of
Yeah.
teachers being relieved of their jobs because they won't go along with it. But there are teachers that, in my humble opinion, are not qualified mentally to be teaching kids younger than them, because they have a something in their mind that they think that things are factually in the way that they think they are, and that's not the way the world is. One of the biggest problems in our schools right
Mm-hmm.
now is that kids are not learning what they need to learn.
No.
The STEM
No.
programs, science, technology, engineering, math, we're falling behind in the world. Japan, China, all these other countries, they're kicking our butts. A lot of European countries are tearing us up, and they're leaving us in the dust. And why is that? Well, because they're not teaching a bunch of nonsense that kids
They're
need to
teaching
know about.
pronouns. They're teaching pronouns and how to respect your teacher's pronouns. That's what they're
Right,
doing.
right. I mean, all the stuff that it makes no sense. Like, our kids need to go into school, they need to learn how to read, and they need to learn how to read from, we've been using the same kind of books and reading systems for years and years, and they have worked just fine. Now kids don't learn how to write in script, right? They learn how to print, and that's it. And they've taken that away. Why have they taken that away? Well, I don't know, because that space that they used to take up to learn that has been filled with something else that's probably nonsensical, right? And what other things have been pulled out of the curriculum to allow space for a lot of this other nonsense? The other thing is that that we are still passing kids that haven't learned what they needed to learn. So, we're putting these books and all this kind of stuff into the classroom that are transgender pro and everything. And again, I'm not against that community, but I am against you forcing this onto kids that are very impressionable, and again, indoctrinating them at such an early age when they are so impressionable. This is the age where you're a parrot, and you're going to repeat and copy and repeat everything that you learn from the people that are supposed to be adults, teaching you the right direction to go.
You know what's funny, Jay, is that the moment that like they've literally canceled out any kind of it seems like, at least, canceled out like us doing the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning at school, right? And, like, that's something that's unheard of nowadays, to do the
Because that
pledge.
darn flag is so offensive,
Right. So,
But
but it's gone away. We don't have that, right? Everyone voted to remove religion from school educations and things like that, which I personally don't. I think to me that's offensive. Why are we choosing to do that, right?
right.
But yet we're okaying for them to bring in this kind of ideology that is really harmful to children, right? Because I'm going to say it. There is some mental health associated with this ideology. There is some serious mental health going on with this,
Absolutely.
and for us to allow this to just be spread the way it is without any, and I mean any evidence that in the medical field to prove or disprove it in either way is dangerous. It's very
Right.
dangerous, and for any school, for any city, county, to allow schools to teach that or to have it even in the classroom is I think very dangerous. I mean, you're walking a very fine line there because, for example, I'm pro 2A, right? I raised my kids with guns. I taught them gun safety. We'd go out there when we were young shooting. All that stuff was important to me, right? Growing up in the society, you need how to learn one how to use something, use it safely, and take care of it. So if I was a substitute teacher, heaven forbid, and I was going into a
In
school
California.
in California, and let's say I have my my flags up, right? I'll have my 2A.
Two A flags. Yeah.
I'll have a broken down picture of an AR, how to take it apart, right, and put it back together. If I have all these things in my school, in my classroom, right, my ruler is in the shape of an AR, right, and I'm like measuring things with it. Could you just imagine what a parent would think when they walk into that classroom? They would
Oh
think
man.
like, "Oh, this guy's creating the next Columbine shooters." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Liberal
He's
heads would explode,
yeah,
man.
absolutely. And I'm not. I don't want to just say liberal. There's some conservatives that really like this is not a place for that,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah,
And
that's true. People walk the center line, and even leaning right would disagree with you having something like that in the classroom. Yeah.
absolutely. So now, how is that okay to wave the LGBT community flag? And again, ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about a race, right, or some kind of medical condition like we do for ADA. We're talking about sexual orientation. Let's call it what it is. It's a
Yep.
sexual orientation. Why are we allowing that flag to wave in our classrooms, right? Because what's going to happen when you have those young kids? They're going to ask question, "Hey, teacher, what's that flag? What is that?" And now,
Right.
guess what? Comes the explanation of what these colors are.
Yeah.
And now that it's gonna be in their head. And that's what and like you said, now we're losing that education. We're losing that important time with our children to educate them. And now we're educating them on LGBT, right? On pronouns, right?
Right.
What use a pronoun in a sentence correctly, okay? Don't not to identify a person. You know what I mean? These are the things that upset me, Jay, because it was bad enough that we saw this at most of these huge retail chain stores going feeding us down our throat. Now you have schools teaching it to our children. Um, Programming, right? Like Disney and all them showing all these types of programming. So you've literally encased our children into this ideology. So now it's like what happens when you corner a cat, right? He's going to defend himself wherever he
Right.
can, right? And that's what they're doing. They're literally doing that to America and dividing this great nation of ours. And that shouldn't happen, right? If you
Right.
want to teach things like that to your children, do it behind closed doors. That's where it should be, right?
Right.
But
Absolutely.
I think even then, as a parent, you have an obligation. I don't want to say responsibility. You have an obligation to do what's right for them children, because what we're doing is we're setting up their future, not ours, theirs,
Right. Yeah.
right? And by doing so, if you fail in preparing them, they're gonna fail as human beings, and
Yeah.
and that's where the society is going. And unfortunately, everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, right? Because that's the thing to do. That's what TikTok shows us. That's what Facebook and Instagram and everything else shows us. That's what the United States government is showing, right? You're taking down an American flag in a government building to put up a LGBTQ, a sexually orientated flag. For what purpose?
Right.
If you want to show support, then you know what? Make laws, right? Look at the old LGBT community, right? They fought for equal rights in marriage, equal rights in healthcare, right? And just existing. That was their big fight, and they achieved it, right?
Yeah.
That hey, that's good. But now you want everyone's involved. it's I don't want to say it because it seems horrible, but it's like we have to defend our children from this kind of ideology, and it's sad to say because it's everywhere, you know.
Yeah. Well, so the thing is that this has been on the rise over the years.
Mhm.
I pulled up a article from Pew Research, and this is as of this year in the U.S. Most adults are most likely to be transgender or non-binary by these percentages here. So they use the age ranges from 18 to 29, 30 to 49, and 50 plus. So people 50, and this is trans, and this includes men and women,
Mhm.
and this is also non-binary, right? So we'll group everything together. So people that are over 50 years old, 0.3% identify as something in that category: trans, non-binary, what have you, men and women.
Mhm.
30 to 49, it's 1.6%. And 18 to 29, it's 5.1%. So over 5% of the populace now, and these young adults have, really started to decrease. And they're saying in the article that, it's planned on it's going to increase quite a bit more. And so why is that? Why all of a sudden would people be identifying this way? Well, it's because it's so ingrained in the culture, and people uh, I mean, sadly, it's really easy to make people believe something that's true or not true. We've went through the last few years of, heavy indoctrination of people staying inside and wearing masks, and one of the biggest things was, you know, um, being on like the ventilator deal, and we know
Yeah.
now after all that time that killed probably a lot more people than it should have, right? So, and there was folks that it was 100%. That's what they believe. So coming back to this, it's the same thing. We're teaching these young kids that have such a sponge for a mind to believe in this way, and that, you're probably not what you were born as. So, um, and, a little bit of commentary for me on that is like, you know, uh, for all the folks that are heavily on the left that believe in this system and they hate the people that are heavily on the right, please understand that we're doing this because we care about our children on the conservative side of things, but we also care about you. And, when they say, well, no, you don't care about us because you don't believe in what we believe in and everything, it's like, well, do you realize that if we give this 40 years and you change all of your children into non reproductive human beings and everything, you won't exist in another 100 years, right? Your party won't exist anymore. So we should just stop caring. And, in 100 years, you guys won't exist anymore. But we do care about you, and that's the thing about us is we care about everybody. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with a party line, a skin color, or anything else. We want everybody. And like Joe said earlier, mental health is a huge burden on our country. Probably one of the worst things we have. I mean, we have a horrible medical system, in our society, period. That I don't think anybody on either side of the party lines would debate that, that our medical system is
All
garbage
right. Well.
at this point. And socialized medicine and stuff like that isn't, guys, it's not the answer. It's not the answer. I mean, we
So.
already have a huge socialized medicine system. It's called the VA, and they run at a 30% to almost 100% in some situations price point over privatized
It's
medicine.
horrible.
The reason privatized medicine has become complete garbage is because it is overregulated and the government has put their foot in everything. And if you see the things that government does and how horribly they do it, why would you want to impose those laws and regulations in the private sector to, so the reason we have so many people with so many issues, and I'm sorry, transgenderism is it's the technical definition for it is gender dysphoria, right?
Yeah.
And again and again, we love people in this, we have friends in this community. We're not bashing at all, but you have to understand that it is a belief system that we have to limit to only adults that can make decisions in their own life. We cannot put this on the kids that are at an impressionable time in their life, and we're teaching them things that they don't understand, and they're just going to go along with the adult that knows what they're
So
doing.
let me just go into the. You brought some stats in, which is very interesting, but let me give you some others. So this is from Rutter's investigation. They wrote an article back in 2022 on the rise of um, let's say, of this group seeking gender care. So, and I'll ask you a question after this. So, it rose from 15,172 in 2017 to 42,167 in 2021. Puberty blockers rose from 633 in 2017 to 1,390 in 2021. And
Wow.
hormone therapy rose from 1,905 in 2017 to 4,231 in 2021. That's just 4 years. Now, let me ask you this. What do you
Wow.
think that group is? Let me tell you. That's age group from 6 to 17. 6 years old to 17 years. In 4 years, you've seen those numbers increase. So you're not going to sit there and tell me that a 6-year-old is going to go up to mommy and daddy and say, "Hey, can I get some puberty blockers? Or, can I get some gender
Right.
care?" That is stuff that we're feeding our children, whether directly or indirectly. That's us. That's what we're doing as a society. We're allowing this to happen in our TVs, on our department stores, at the
Mm-hmm.
grocery store, at everywhere we look. That's happening. And you brought that a very good point earlier that you mentioned about mental health. So, and again, ladies and gentlemen, we're putting out just information. A lot of it is what we feel, what we believe, and part of it is some things that we look up and research. But this is not to say you're wrong, I'm right. This is more to educate people and see what the impacts are, looking from a different perspective, right? A lot of times when people are making decisions, they have to look at it from different perspectives to understand the whole picture, and then decide what's the best direction. But my point is that one of the biggest things that impacted our children now versus when Jay and I were younger, or even when Jay and I were in our middle ages, life wasn't as difficult back then. And a lot of people say, well, life's always going to be the same. It's always going to be hard. Yes, it's always hard. But now it seems like there's so much, because of social platforms, um, is so much more burden on kids that want to fit in, to keep up with the latest TikTok trend, or to
Right.
have the latest TikTok store purchases, right? All these things that people are trying to keep up with, or children, actually, they're young kids who are trying to keep up with. It is a pressure. It's a lot of pressure on these kids. I see, there's some of these dance, Jay, on TikToks, where the older people are dancing like these little really seductive dances. They're
Right.
shaking. They're you know what I mean. Um,
Yeah. I saw you
you
doing those dances. Come on now.
don't give my TikTok handle away. Anyway, I those you know what? If you click on, there's in the very corner, there's like a little the little music to what they're doing it to. You click on
Uh-huh.
that and it shows you more people that are doing that same little thing. There are kids in there, bro, that are like 6 years old, twerking, doing these moves that are very seductive, very sexualized. And I'm thinking, where are the parents? Where are the parents? And why are they allowing this? Because then you have people who are adults seeing this, right? And now, dude, I'm telling you right now that the social media platforms
Oh
are
yeah.
horrible for children. They should be for adults. But anyway,
Well, I'll tell you right now that there's everybody can agree or disagree, but I'm telling you right now, there is one of those that there's a kid doing a TikTok in the living room, and the mom's on OnlyFans in her bedroom. Okay, so I mean that's
yeah,
what's
that's where we're at
society's
today,
come
you
to.
guys.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things. So there is a lot of pressure in today's youth. I'll give you that. A lot more than when we had, or even that I had raising my kids. I didn't have those issues. Um, so one of the things that happened that's been very impactful to our nation, to our youth, that hasn't happened in a long time, not that I remember while I've been alive, is the COVID lockdown. Right? We were
Oh yeah,
we
that
were
was
locked.
horrible.
That was horrible. We were locked down. Right? We went from being socializing with our friends and socializing with our family to nothing, right? You're locked down, bro. You ain't going nowhere.
Right.
You're gonna stay in there. And after a while of staying at home, right, you got tired of seeing your own parents. You're like, God, man, these people, they're the same damn person every day, you know. And then you had to go to your room, right? You stay in your room, and what'd you do? You either were online at school, or you're looking at YouTube videos, or you're on the phone. You're not engaging like like the human body was intended to, right? Engage in person, interact, and things like that. And so I think that had a lot of mental stress on our kids, a lot. Um, us as adults, come on, we're used to that. Those of you that are married, we're used to being ignored by by your significant other, right? So, whatever. But children are not. Children are not. Children are used to interacting with other children, going out and hanging out at the malls, which are disappearing, just doing all kinds of different things. We took that away from them. So when that happened, we've opened this door to mental health, one that we were not, as a nation, we were not, and we continue not being ready to deal with. Right? We don't know how
Right.
to handle mental health here in the United States. We don't. Our Medicare system, our healthcare system is horrible. Right?
It is.
And forget about mental health. I mean, my son had a hard time just trying to get to a VA. He had to go to like 2, 3 different ones just to get seen, and so it's ridiculous that this is happening. But I know one thing that people who are in favor or who believe in this transgender ideology say is like, well, if it wasn't for all these books or all this education that we're giving and providing, we'd have a high suicide rate. So I don't believe that. If that is happening, there's underlying issues. It's not because of the transgender issue. So there was
Right.
a publication that was done back in March of this year by psychiatrist.com. It was a study on gender dysphoria in pediatric and transitional aged youth that were hospitalized for suicide, right? So in those there was a significantly higher proportion of those patients had primary diagnosis of depression disorder.
Oh yeah, that would
So
totally make sense.
so there was underlying issues already, and then you add that to
Right.
all the stuff that people want, like that's feeding you in the news, right? You walk into Target, boom, it's in your face. You go to Kohl's, boom, it's in your face. You turn on TV, boom, it's right there. So what do you think what is going to happen when someone who is depressed sees that? They're like, that's what it is. That's why I
Right.
don't, because I've known people who've been depressed. Thank God I've never been that way. I might, I don't even know, but I know people that have been depressed, and it's horrible. I mean, they go and fall into these periods of time where it's just like they don't even know they're depressed, right? So
Right.
you imagine that in a child who has not been diagnosed and then fed all this ideology. What do you think's going to happen?
Right, because they already have this hole that they're living in, right? This sinkhole that they're living in, and you're adding all this weight on top of them, right? Of other things that they need to now be concerned and worry about, and think, oh my gosh, well maybe I need to go this direction or that direction. No, you need to cure the underlying problem that they have and find out, like, why are they depressed. Is it a hormone imbalance of some kind, or all these different things. And I'm one of those people. I'm pretty anti uh popping a pill for every issue, because that
Yeah.
becomes the thing. And let me tell you, the pharmaceutical industries, no matter how much people want to put them on a pedestal and say that they are the greatest thing since sliced bread, and well, if we hadn't had penicillin, millions of people would have died. Yeah, you know what? And people die with penicillin, right? And people die with. So the thing is that the pharmaceutical companies, no matter how much you like them, they're all there for one thing: to make a profit. They're there to sell their product, and they're not there to make you better. They're not. Because if everybody was cured of anything in this world, they would have no job anymore.
They make
And they
money.
would,
It's all about money. If you don't believe me,
it is.
ask Pelosi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the weird thing also, Jay, just talking about that. So we just mentioned about mental health. So they're they haven't been diagnosed with mental health issues. But when let's say they a parent takes them to go see a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. Do you know now that there are psychologists and psychiatrists that cater to the LGBT community? Right. So
Wow.
you're still in that trap. You're not
Yeah.
going anywhere. You know what I mean?
See,
You're not coming out of it. And here's the problem: stop labeling it like it's you cater to that's
no.
sexuality, man. Label it
Right.
like what it is. Don't define it like that, because now you're making it think like, hey, no, you're normal. that you're just
Right.
not in who your body that needs to be. Come on.
Well, and it has nothing to do with, the psychology portion of it. Because imagine, like, I walk into a psychologist's office, right? I have my first appointment. I've got stuff going on in my mind. I got to figure things out, and it's you, somebody that's Mexican, and I say, no, I want somebody that's white that really understands me.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with it. Nothing.
Did you just
And
assume I was Mexican? Did you just assume?
I did, Dick. So I remembered. I remember.
Wow.
So
All right.
yeah, kind of crazy. So I mean, one of the things, and I got kind of a little analogy here. So you I want to do this thing. So Joe and I are going to be on the street, and we're going to tell people, hey, listen, we're going to pay you $500. You're going to spend 30 minutes inside of a cage with a puppy, right? $500, but you got to stay in there 30 minutes with a puppy. And we're going to get folks and interview them and see what their qualifications are and everything. And
I want to be in the cage with a puppy.
you want to be in the cage with the puppy, right? So we're outside of a building on the street, and we get a bunch of applicants and everything, and finally we pick one person, and we say, okay, you got to stay in there 30 minutes with the puppy, and we'll give you $500. Okay, yeah, sounds
It's
great.
easy
Sounds
money,
great.
bro.
Easy money. So we walk him in there, and when we open the door to go in there, it's a 40 by 40-foot cage, and there is there's a tiger inside the cage, and the person stops and goes, whoa, 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 wait a minute. I thought you said it was a puppy. And we say, how dare you assume that tiger isn't a puppy, right? That tiger identifies as a baby puppy, and you're going to spend 30 minutes in that cage, and we're going to give you the $500. Well, anybody would be out of their mind, right, to take on that challenge. But that scenario right there is the same thing as we're talking about. Just because that animal identifies as something else, or we have decided, there's the key, we have decided that animal is going to identify as something else, doesn't mean you have to accept that and jump in a cage with the tiger that identifies as a puppy. So, Joe, do you still want to get in the cage?
Oh man, you should have told me that before. But bro, same team here, bro. Same team.
Same team.
But you're right. You make a good point because that just proves that person's reality is not mine, right? That we
That's
have
right.
two
Our
different
reality,
realities are different. So one thing that you hear a lot about is that perception is reality, when in fact it's not. It's perception, right? But what they mean by that is that my perception to me is my reality, right?
right?
And
Yeah.
and it goes the same to you. So
Yeah.
so I get the meaning, but here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, it's just a perception. So what you believe in, what your reality is like, hey, I'm non-binary. That's my reality. Well, great for you. As long as you believe that, that's good for you. I respect that you believe that, but I should not be forced to believe in what you believe in, because that's your reality, not mine. Right
Yeah.
now, will I give you the respect of calling you by whatever your non-binary name is, or your dead name, what they call it? I'm fine with that. Now, keep in mind, I might forget, right? Because my mind is going to associate one thing with another, and it's
Right.
always going to go back to, I was raised to always say sir or ma'am, things like that. And I just do that.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
just something that I grew up with.
That's actually respect. That is not
Right,
disrespectful in
right.
any
So
means.
and that's just human nature for me. That's my reality, right? It's my perception
Right.
of reality. So we get it as individuals. We get that your perception, your reality is yours and yours alone. But you cannot force that onto other people. You can't impose that onto another individual, because their reality or their perception of their reality is not the same as yours, and it's not going to be viewed the same, right? And we have to respect those boundaries with our children. That's even further. Their perception of reality is even further out there, right?
Right.
Like Jay said, they believe in the tooth fairy. They believe in the bunny that brings you chocolates, right? The Easter bunny. They believe in all kinds of things that we as adults now realize, like, okay, you know what, they don't exist.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't
but
believe in that pagan stuff.
yeah, exactly right. So but we have to understand that that's a fine line, right? And most people say like, well, you did that to your children. Yeah, it's different though. My children, because I said, hey, the Easter Bunny is real or the Tooth Fairy is real. I didn't go out and buy them wings and say, jump off that roof, go do something, right? So we have to understand that these things are bad. These are bad, and we have to teach our
Right.
children the right way. So,
And the bottom line is, I am not jumping in your cage with your belief as a puppy. Okay, don't make us do that. So,
dude, you got me on that one, man, because I was so ready. I'm like, dude, I love puppies.
Got him!
I should have thought
Got
twice
him!
when you said a 40 by 40 cage. I'm like, that's a huge cage for a puppy. How
for a
big is this
puppy,
puppy?
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
got me. One for you.
yeah.
That's cool, bro.
Got
That's
him.
cool. Got him.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I'm Jay, and that's Joe. And this has been Joe and Jay Outspoken. If you've had fun or learned anything, do us a favor, like, subscribe, comment, and share. Those things really help us fight the algorithm that may not always agree with the topics we cover. And today is probably going to be that topic. And like most of the topics we cover on the channel, today's topic was suggested by you. So if there is a topic you would like to see us cover in the future, please go to joeandjproductions.com/ideas. We do read our emails. And like I say, this topic today had a lot to do with somebody that wrote into us. So, and a very special thing to our thanks to our Patreons that make this whole thing possible. Without your amazing support, there would be no Outspoken. If you would like to help out, it can be as small as liking, subscribing, and commenting. You can also grab merch from the Outspoken store. We have some new merchandise coming down the line, so keep a lookout for that. For only $5 a month, become one of our Patreon members. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Take care of one another.
Do better, be better.
And as always,
God bless America.